Hello everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining me again for another interesting and intriguing session. Today I will be looking at what is the last will and testament and what are the characteristics that must be present when you are seeking to make your last will and testament. Now, a will is basically a legal document which coordinates a person's assets after his death. It basically discloses how those assets will be distributed, who will be the executors under the will, and if there are young children involved, how your assets will be devised or disposed of among those young children. Now, when we're looking at the will, we will come across the Wills Act, which governs what are the formalities that must be present in order for the will to be valid. The first thing that the Wills Act states is that the will must be in writing. What this means is that if someone basically states orally that this is the way he intends for his assets to be disposed of when he dies, that will fail because it must be in writing. The second thing is that it must be signed at the end or at the foot by the testator, or it must be on the direction of the testator. Thirdly, it must be in the presence of two or more witnesses, and it must have a attestation clause, and those witnesses may subscribe to the will. What if your will does not have a date? If your will does not have a date on it, the law states that that is okay. Now, the date becomes necessary where there is some amendment to the will or there's a revocation of an earlier will. The principle that subsists at law is that a later will revoke an earlier will. Secondly, in order for you to be sure that this is the last will of the testator or testatrix, you must do an affidavit of search, and this will enable you to identify and ascertain whether this is in fact the last will and testament. Now, in order for a person to make a valid will, that person must have the requisite testamentary capacity. What does it mean to have the requisite testamentary capacity? It means that the person must be of the age of 18 years and older in order for them to make the will. The person must also be of sound mind, memory, and understanding. And the principle was explained in the case of Banks and Goodfellow. In that case, the court said in order for a person to be deemed of sound mind, memory, and understanding, they must understand the nature of the business that he has engaged in. What are the assets that are supposed to be disposed of, and who are those persons that are to be considered a part of the bounty? The law states that where any of these elements are absent, then the will may fail and the law on intestacy may govern as found in the civil procedure rule. Now, you may be wondering, what if at the time the person was suffering from a mental incapacity or the person was under a delusion? What will happen is that where the person who asserts and takes the matter to the court, then the court will look at the content of the will and determine whether there are parts of that will that would still be valid, notwithstanding the presence of that delusion. Certainly, the court can also struck out those parts of the will that are found to be where the person was suffering under that particular delusion. If the person was mentally insane at the time of making the will, then the law states that the will may fail. If you are considering making your last will and testament, I would say it is a good step. It is a good step because you are not only planning for your estate where when you die, but you are also making sure that the law on intestacy does not step into play and decide how your assets will be distributed among your family members. Now, where you have children as well, it is very important for you to make a will, because what the will do is that the will basically lay down who is entitled to what and how your assets are supposed to be distributed. It offers protection for young children who may not be of a certain age and understanding to know how the assets will be distributed. Thank you for having me today. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Goodbye.